I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Derek Camacho. Bill Boylan.
Yep.
John Ganger.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Here.
John DeVore.
Here.
Dean Reister.
Here.
Move we approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
John.
Yes.
Motion on the floor to approve the July meeting minutes. Dean Reister.
Yes.
John Ganger.
Yes.
Derek Camacho.
Yes.
Bill Boylan.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
John DeVore.
Yes.
Question on the financials. Who does Sharpline Solutions?
That is the new IT company. They used to be based out of Ohio, and they've opened an office in New Haven.
Okay.
That's my short plan.
No other questions? We get a motion to approve the financials.
Like,
Motion on the floor to approve the July financial report. Derek Camacho.
Yes.
Dean Reister.
yes.
Bill Boylan.
Yes.
John Ganger.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
John DeVore.
Yes.
And we'll just have one visitor this evening on the agenda, and that is Mr. Dustin Sensible. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm coming on behalf of AC/DC. We are looking at doing another event. We would like to seek council's approval to use a different location. So we're going to do a fall event, September 26th, the Saturday, homecoming weekend for the school. We wanted to do like an autumn we want to call it Antwerp Autumn Kickoff. What we're wanting to do at this event is we would like to use the 5 acres out by the water treatment plant that is on the east side of the football field there. We're looking at just kind of exploring different areas to possibly do other events in the future. We noticed that that's one that the village owns, and we would like to see if we could possibly utilize that. For this specific event, we're looking at having a live band, buying a TV and having the Ohio State game played, just pretty much like a fellowship type ordeal, bringing in 1 or 2 food trucks. And then also, if approved, AC/DC would sell alcohol. We would have proper insurance, fill the form, file for an F2 permit, get the extra insurance through our insurance agent to be able to sell alcohol. Kids would be welcome. We'd have kids games. Scott McMichael, I think, is going to do icy or snow cones. And then the other option we were looking at was possibly, if it was okay, contained fire pits out there, 1 or 2 just for people to have outside the tents or whatnot. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing. Just wanted to come and see if that's something that the council would be interested in letting us use that property, if alcohol would be allowed there, and if the fire pits would be allowed as long as they're contained. So,
Yeah, the fire pits would have to make sure that the solicitor says we can do it.
and then if it's a no,
Insurance.
it's not a big deal breaker. I mean,
Might
it's,
be a question for insurance thing.
Yeah, I think when we were kind of talking about it before, as long as it's like a designated, so like if you set it up, somebody's probably got to approve that fire could be there.
Yeah, I was thinking it had something to do with a fire marshal.
Yes.
and if it's a hassle, like I said, it's
Yeah,
not a big
Well, we
deal. It can
definitely look
be,
in to see what it would
it
take.
can be ixnayed really, really quickly.
Yeah.
It's not gonna hurt our feelings if the fire can't happen.
So,
With all that, if we would be approved, we have 30 days to file for an F2 permit, so I've got to like the 26th-ish, of August to file for the permit, if we were approved to do that for the alcohol wise. So that's the only time constraint that we really have out of all of it, so. But I don't look for it to be, 1,000 people. I look for it to be a smaller, probably 500 or less group. We always want bigger, but just something we thought, there's not really much going on in the fall. Wanted to throw another event. Funds have been in our favor lately, and we just like to, give back and have other things to do for the community, so.
But, we'll
Yeah.
talk about it in new business.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys.
I have one question.
Yes, sir, yes.
This date, is there also an Antwerp football game that day?
It'd be Friday night. Friday night's
Friday night
football. Yeah,
football game.
Friday night would be the homecoming football game, and then Saturday is the dance. So, I mean, parents could drop their kids off, come watch a game, grab some food at the food trucks. We just kind of picked that weekend and 26.
9/26.
Yeah.
Is that Friday?
Saturday,
That's Saturday.
Saturday.
Yep,
After the Friday.
Yep. after the Friday game. We don't know exactly what time the Ohio State game is yet. We tried queuing up our insides of Quinn Temple, and he has a rough idea, but he couldn't give us an exact date or time. But we're looking anywhere between starting in at like 12 to 3 and being done by 10 o'clock. Roughly. I mean, an early, not a long drawn out thing. So just like I said, somewhere for people to get together and hang out. So. But any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Police report will be next. Anybody have no questions from over there? How are you, George? Good. Good. That's George. On the admin report, which you guys received in your packet, if you have questions, you can reach out to Brian. He's not here tonight. He's sick. He's, I guess, say he's got shingles, so I'm not sure how long he'll be out of the office, but he is answering his phones, answering his emails like normal. So he's working. He's just not in the office currently. So if you guys need him, you can reach him that way. I've been bugging him, but trying not to bug him too much. So. Next would be the committee reports. Now we got some of those.
Okay, I've got a committee report for the zoning board. We had an emergency meeting last night. I give everyone a map of Antwerp Square. You should have it, has a yellow highlighted area. The village administrator was contacted by John Wick. They're the investment group. He's part of the investment group that owns Antwerp Square property. And they've been contacted by another investor who would like to put in a distribution center in the Antwerp Square. And currently, we are not zoned for that at our status we have right now. It was suggested that we go into our zoning book and just change in our 300 zoning. Be on page 24, it says distributors, warehouses, and wholesale outlets with no outdoor storage or no processing of fabrication. We felt that was kind of narrow. If we just change that to conditional for that specific line for the B2. And another problem we have, if you look at the zoning map behind me, B2 also includes River Street. Basically, everything running east and west. So that would all be incorporated into one big deal that we just changed one line. So we felt it was more important to specifically put it where if they want, rather than just do a rubber stamp deal and the whole town, maybe in later years, we have to deal with it. We didn't want truck traffic to come back in downtown Antwerp, which if a distribution center ended up somewhere on Old 24, say, Dollar General moves out, and they want to put a distribution center in there, then how you got trucks back downtown again. So we kind of like to avoid that. So what our proposal was for the council is this area has been highlighted down here in the bottom part of the Antwerp Square. That's right next to US 24 would be the area that we would suggest that we allow that. And if you notice on the right-hand side, which would be the east, that would be subdivision F. I drew a line across there because we didn't want that whole area to be allowed right up next to the housing that's already in that vicinity there on Harmon Road. So it's kind of a buffer area. We thought that we should stop it there and not go any farther north. So that's our proposal, that we would accept everything that's allowed in industrial park area under conditional use for out there. Because if it's just use one little area, then somebody's gonna come back maybe 3 months from now and say, hey, I got this little electronics place that we put together components. Can we move out there? Well, now we're right back to meeting again. We're gonna have to make up another zoning ordinance. So our proposal was just to incorporate all of it under conditional use. They can't start anything until they're approved through the zoning board to go forward with it. So it would be, we're interested in having you come, but what do you want to make? You know, what you're gonna, your distribution center gonna do. So that was our proposal. They'd like to move forward with this as quick as possible. I believe they had talked to Brandon about possibly even having an ordinance round. I don't know if that was possible or any place like that, or whether we have to approve it for him to start an ordinance. I'm not sure of the legal aspect of that side of it.
Yeah, I talked to Brian. My only suggestion was that zoning meet on it first and recommend it. If everyone is okay with it, we can have an emergency ordinance for next month. Yeah, other than that.
I absolutely hate it. That's not what me personally, what I've envisioned happening out there. I think it's terrible.
Which part?
I mean, it's gonna turn into an industrial park.
That part of the map, though, all that, if it's in yellow, Jason, was already like for different. Like it was supposed to be light industrial. There's already things like, and it's hard to read that stuff relative to what it is, but, that part out there wasn't for like housing and stuff, so. I mean, just to point that out, but I can't read what that little commercial. So F,
Yeah, like.
Or
freeway
J.
Commercial, highway, freeway, commercial. Yeah.
What, I had talked to Brian briefly on it. And he said that the possibility that this could create up to 250 jobs. I don't know how big of an area this would encompass. But they wanted to develop what on this map, the Antwerp Parkway, they want to develop that road between the Nazarene Church and Dollar General. That would be their access off of US 49 from 24. They wouldn't come up into the Meyer Drive area. And that road down there is 36 feet wide, which would handle the semi traffic. And it wouldn't be up inside the residential area of town. That was their proposal. I don't know, you know, the developer was hoping we could get something going on it. But like I said, it depends on what the distribution center is. If they're running, bringing tankers full of chlorine and then bottle it and sell it, or just distribute it back out, that's a hazardous waste. I would say, no, we're not gonna do it. It depends on my opinion. I'm in favor of it, but it depends on what type of business or warehouse distribution center it would actually be.
Yeah, it's still conditional, so it still has to pass through the zoning. Sorry, Bill, I'm hijacking it a little bit again. It still be conditional, so everything still needs to be approved through the zoning process as well. So there's still a curtain of approval, no matter what we do here. Just so you know.
There's still a safeguard on what
Correct.
we can be selective on what is allowed.
We still need the final say.
Yeah, I'm like, you like to see strip malls down through there or, you know, little mom and pop restaurants, but you don't have people working, you don't have employment here, then you don't have the rest of the falls. That's kind of an afterthought. That comes in behind everything else, I think.
My looking at it, the fear I would have is that they'd want to take the first slots or something, and then that would kind of ruin it for having like the hotel traffic or restaurant traffic or something like that. You know, we definitely need to want to push them back towards this east corner somehow. I didn't know if there's a way we could section it off even better to push them back in that corner.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it is, because we had talked about this, we don't have like that type of plan, so I don't know if there's like when they bring that to us, if we can, you know, help with that planning as well, of like, maybe we don't want it in this position, maybe we don't want it in this position, so
We don't.
there's
have-
still a lot of questions. up
We have
there.
no idea how big the building is they're even talking about. I
Yep.
mean, it could be
We
an
don't know the
Amazon
scale.
sized building
Mhm.
and take up that whole section.
Yeah, technically, we don't know the scale or anything yet.
That would be something we could do, you know, we can, in our discussion, we can come up with, and say, well, but that subdivision, like, B is it?
H.
Just say that that's not part of, that would be omitted from allowing, but if we feel that that is too close to the church, then, you know, they want to use it for other purposes, but we don't own the property. That's investors own it, so they're the ones that's gonna say, yeah, well, let this work here, and we can sell this to whoever. So it's more or less either we kind of work with them, or we can't really
Yeah, we don't wanna,
steer them too much, and then they don't have anybody.
I don't think we wanna fuck any businesses that would be interested in the area, cause we've always designated it for business out that way, and it just so happens that the first business was housing that come in, so. I'm not totally opposed to have it out there, but it would be conditional on size and product. I would, I would like to know what it is that they would be doing. I wouldn't be totally against something going on out there. Bill, do you know how far it is from the east side to the Antwerp Parkway? What's that distance across there? Do we know?
I don't have it on. Any major-
I'm just wondering if there was even enough room for a decent sized building there.
Yeah, I do not know. Yeah, this is all kind of a tentative breakdown as far as it was in surveyed, as far as this is how far it is from point A to point B. Even that road is, you know, it's just a mock-up. It could come across there between the Nazarene Church and Dollar General and make a sharp right or left-hand turn. You know, this doesn't necessarily, it's an easement that's been allowed for it now, but they
Yeah.
can change that easement since they own the whole property.
Yeah, it could turn and bring the road around like this and have a building out here by the highway or something. And then have, drive access around that way. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes. It's just a mock-up drawing. This was the original approved drawing to approve the Antwerp Square.
Right.
That's what this is. It's not an engineering draft for dimensions or corner stakes or any of that. This is just an approved drawing that we approved. Get the Antwerp Square verbiage into an ordinance. So
Not to keep dragging this out, but just, if we did if there was something like that to go in and we had an access, more towards the center down road, what is it, Road B? If it was something like that turned and went up by the highway, worst comes to worst, we could do some sort of a landscape tree line or something along the road out there to kind of segregate between the road and the residential area, like plant trees like around this corner here, bring a road in like that. So they could access out here, and then this would kind of like cut it off, or privacy fencing or anything like that it's always things that we could look at. As opposed to just not saying no.
Just from sitting in that meeting and like listening to this stuff, I think the important thing to remember is this is just allowing them to go fishing, essentially. We're allowing them to go talk to these companies, but we're not approving any company to come in. So no matter who they come with, if they come with an Amazon building that's huge, or they come with some little box that, 5 guys in a corner, like, we all will get to see that and we'll get to approve or disapprove. So this is just allowing them to say, hey, this area is zoned for a position for a building like yours or a company like yours.
Yeah.
Would you guys be interested? And then if they say yes, then they come to us, and that's the way I understand it. So again, we're not like saying Amazon can move in there or like the chlorine, because that's what zoning guys, I mean, John, Bill, Matt, Orman, Mark, we said in here, like, we don't want, something that's blowing
Toxic.
fumes or whatever over there, because obviously the football field, the school, all those things are in, the proximity. So that's why we drew that little imaginary line, like, across that area that they have, which, to shorten it, because we're trying to keep it away from the house. Yeah. So yeah, that's, I think the point of this one is just to allow them to, again, search, if you will.
So-
Not,
seek investors.
Not
that
committed.
are in there.
So for some clarity for me, we already have zoning out there for businesses and such out there, but what we don't have is the verbiage to allow a warehouse.
Yes, more
like,
on the industrial side rather than like businesses like
Retail and what do
commercial.
they call it, the hotels and whatever they call it,
Yeah,
hospitality.
yeah, this is a little bit leaning towards the light like actual manufacturing, I guess would be a good segregation.
Okay.
Of the line, I would withdrawal, yeah.
I guess I know enough information.
Motion to have Brandon create a ordinance for next month.
I would think.
Are we looking for an ordinance or are we looking for a zoning verbiage change? What is it? We're zoning verbiage, isn't it?
One thing I do wanna piggyback off, just so you guys know, because Bill had said, the ask was to put a little C on one of those for conditional for the zoning book. I think, and this go to Brandon too, because I think this might be a question just in general, even for me, is the ask, I think, was to give them permission for this, but I don't think anything in our zoning book, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't want anything in our zoning to necessarily change right now. Because that B2 square on that map, we don't know what's all going in here exactly, but I think once this firms up over the time, as things start to enter in, we can start to segregate that out and then adjust the zoning book to match what's the intent.
This is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't something that should be done on emergency reading. It should have 3 readings. This is, we have this development going in, we have one chance to get it right. And we wanna change now. After we've already been through, zoning's already been through this. Now we're being asked to consider industrial, light industrial in there. That's never been the intention.
But I think it was the intention. Everybody was under the intention,
Industrial?
everybody was under the assumption that it was part of that. And then they figured out it's not part of that. That's why they're just trying to add it. As I understand it. And you guys, I mean, sat through the meetings
What
too,
we
so.
heard was hotels, strip malls, that was the intention.
And it says that stuff like the
Yeah.
hotel, restaurant, conference
You-
center, commercial, retail, office, institutional, travel plaza, freeway, commercial uses. I mean, that's, yeah, I'm not trying to sway you one way or another, but I'm just trying to explain to you that that's why they're doing what they're doing. And I think if we don't approve them to go allow them to look for these companies that may want to go there, then we're not necessarily helping the project move along. And right, that's not my decision. That's council's decision. So I can just shut up on it actually, but at the end of the day, that's where I think it is. This is allowing them to go fishing for something that we ultimately will approve the fish before it ever comes in the boat. So we can say, nope, cut it, or we can say, yep, let's put it in a cooler and run with it. So that's kind of the way I understood it. And I think, yeah, so.
I think if we change this to allow this light industrial like that you've driven by many industrial parks. Some are nice, some are not. This is the first thing you're gonna see when you come off the exit in our town. It's what you're gonna see of Antwerp. Do you want it? Do you want to take the chance on it being some not such a nice industrial area right there when you turn into town? It'd be 50-50 20 years from now on what it looks like. My opinion.
I've always had the impression that when we started this out there, we was looking for industrial businesses to come in. That's, I guess, what I thought the intent was out there when it first started. I was surprised when we went housing and not industrial out there, because it was always the discussion was creating some jobs in the area and having a businesses in there that would create jobs, and of course, that would include the industry business. But, having a say in what kind of business is helpful. I don't know if there's any standards we can keep on appearance of buildings and lots and stuff like that. We have a hard enough time keeping our residential area cleaned up.
Okay, so I don't know. We either have to get somebody to make a motion to,
So anyone could ask me to bring an ordinance and then Kevin can put it on the report. You guys can vote on it. I would prefer if it's just one person asking for it, I'd say get shot down on it, but I will do whatever you guys tell me.
What would our ordinance say?
That's what I'm a little confused about.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, yeah, because this is still that first, we're not to where you're going just yet. But we're opening it up. To me, this is kind of like we're giving like written permit, it's almost like we're giving written permission to allow them to go beyond B2 and allowing them to go and look for industrial. That's literally it.
I don't
Yeah.
think, I think there's only two ways that you could do that though.
Okay.
And it's either change B2 to have light industrial as a conditional use, or have someone apply for a zoning variance. I don't think that you can say that this specific B2 zone now also has light industrial as a conditional use, unless you make a new zone that's M1
I talked about that.
mixed, and then put whatever you think should work out there as that and rezone that area to M1. But I don't know that for this specific area that you can carve out, say this B2 now also has X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
I guess I wouldn't know what the mechanism.
Is the variance application. That seems like pretty, you're just thinking about it, seems like a fairly standard route, right? Build.
We didn't change anything and a business said, hey, we want to come in here, can we get a variance on it? And then allow it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think the only thing, I guess, for any of you that are weary of this would be, you don't make that decision. Zone of Appeals does at that point. And that's, obviously not just council members. There's that consideration.
Their decision's final. Once they make it, we change. They decide, you have to do it. If you're on the variance.
So it's taken out of your hands and put into a committee's hands, which,
Unless you rezone the area, that one, the only way the council will be able to approve it, what you're saying is to rezone that small section of that area too.
Something we table on.
Well, I'd say you got two options. We either rezone this area, call it M1, A2,
I
B,
made
whatever,
a joke about one.
or
I1A.
go into the book. This is on page 24 for its permissible use of industrial park. We could have that changed conditional use under B2. Because that is under B2, that's a B2 district out there. And it would be all of B2 would be conditional for that type of use.
And you would still, the other B2 areas, it would be just like this one. It's conditional, they still have to ask.
Okay, so it sounds like to me, putting the C on there, making that edit to that. Say we move forward with that, eventually we're gonna have to undo that event. So, right, if we actually do get the opportunity to rezone this, once things get more firm, we're just gonna have to undo that, we're gonna have to do that in the future,
Well, yeah,
if that's the route.
if that's what they wanna do, undo it or just leave it as it is, but yeah, it would have to come back up as another ordinance.
Got it. It's not a big deal, I was just trying to prevent multiple touch points. Okay.
But we don't have a better access to our R1 now. Get them over on the Harmon Road. Direct an industry to go out there.
That's been our Achilles heel for Antwerp is our industrial parks, basically inaccessible. Where it's at, there's no easy way to get to it, other than off 127 out of Paul.
Yeah.
Coming through Antwerp, for any truck driver, it's a pretty much a nightmare.
Have to use the 140/62 county roads. Get the Harmon Road to get to it.
And then on the
That corner,
We don't want that traffic. in
not very
town.
good for large semis. I want to
No,
tell you.
No,
That was never designed for that type
No.
of traffic. That's where we're at, gentlemen. The investor has someone else that's interested. Possibility, I understand, of up to 250 jobs for the area, for Antwerp. revenue for whatever it
So that's
generates.
income tax revenue off of every employee out there.
Pre-tax. That's what we're looking at if we want to go forward with it, and I would say probably the best bet would be just to go ahead and put that conditional use underneath the distributor, warehouse and wholesale outlets for the B2 area. Brian Davis thought that that wouldn't be an issue because all River Street doesn't really have enough property accessible for a warehouse setup.
To have that in
Yeah.
town, you would-
Even if you took out, say, the Dollar General again, that's an empty lot, that might not be big enough for a distribution center type situation.
but even at that rate, if we've got it marked C, it's still conditional and we
Right.
can approve or
It's still-
disapprove
Yeah.
anything going in there.
That would be the
That's the
easiest
only
way.
saving grace that I see out of the whole thing. To address Jason's concerns. I mean, I guess. I'm not opposed.
Yeah, we were just trying to find a mechanism that hopefully could
Yeah.
alter the zoning ordinance or at least minimize the impact. That's what we're kind of hoping on, but it sounds like that is the best route, is that to at least add the C and, you know, as they fish for things, I suppose that's just maybe the mechanism. My fear was what precedent we set on this, just, you know, as they start building this out, so way out, but it sounds like adding C as they pitch things is another form of, I guess, control. Right?
So, Bill, I guess what I could do from what I'm hearing is I can draft an ordinance, make it an emergency to add the industrial use as a conditional use under B2. And then I have no problem. So just as a reminder for the emergencies, we have to have 5 to suspend rules. We don't get that, then that meeting can still count as,
First one, yeah.
we can just take the emergency language out, for what potentially be passed. Is that what you,
That
what
was
zoning is asking for?
That was, the zoning had approved it. We thought that
We improved that
moved forward
particular
with it,
thing.
so that's our best
It's kind of
avenue.
like given what we know now.
Fair, once we know we're going that way, if we don't wanna read it as an emergency, I don't know that we have to, cause I don't know that they're gonna break ground on
So
anything in the next.
this was
3
gonna be my
months.
question. I know, once again, I guess it's a Brandon question here. We start taking this path. And we give them, okay, this is our intent, right? Like we're telling the people, hey, this is our intent to do the reading of this. You know, verbally, it sounds like the council is interested in seeing what you can find. Industrial section, and then as we read it, does it need to be ordinance? I don't think so. But I also don't know, I'm not legal.
The only thing, yeah, that'd be your question. for me.
I don't
Other
know.
than I could see like if we go to the 3rd reading and somebody decides that they don't wanna do it and it falls apart and they're already out asking
Well,
places,
yeah,
that would be the
then it
only
would
thing, but
completely
that's
blow
ifs and
apart.
buts, man, you can create those all day, and
I know.
so.
Yeah, I guess from a legal standpoint, I would say if they're asking council to change it, it's probably because that's whoever they've been in contact with, that's a condition of them.
Needs
moving
commitment.
forward
Yep.
with it.
Yep, needs a commitment. I understand. Nope. Okay.
So what's the verdict?
He's gonna draft an order, conditional use, I believe is what.
Yeah, well, it sounds like.
As an emergency, and if we don't pass the emergency, then we'll become first reading. And in the meantime, we can all do some homework.
Yeah, because I was debating whether it's one of the questions I had was, is it worth it to only put a C on the warehousing? And if they're gonna keep fishing, do we just make everything that's permitted in the I-1 conditional in the B2? And try to do, if we're gonna do this, do it all in one fell swoop. That way we can undo it down, you know, so it's gonna have to undo this as the zoning project develops or gets prepped, right? So.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Oh, for the zoning, but-
Well, that was just the committee report.
All right, on to the next committee report.
On to the next one. For the utilities committee, I don't think I need to get into the detail. Well, I think the bulk of this, the output probably gonna be in old business / new business, which we can go over. But we had 2 utility meetings. One was Thursday of last week, and then one was Monday. Both regarding the 2027 rates. And the goal, the output of those meetings were to try to establish, 2027 rates for the community. To kind of sum it up, some big changes is it sounds like it's inevitable that we're gonna go monthly billing, which I think is fine. So compared to how you're billed now is monthly rather than quarterly. There was both proposals, there were 2 presented that we discussed about. Both removed the homestead. So there's no longer a homestead. There's just effectively 2 categories of incorporated and out of corporations. So that still is maintained. And ultimately, I think the utility meeting has come out and accepted proposal 2 rather than proposal 1 in the handout that I printed out. I don't know, should I go over this in the committee report or should we wait until old business to really deliberate?
You can probably get the information now.
Okay. So I'll get to that packet. So the primary differences between the 2 proposals was one was a little bit more heavy-handed towards the out of corporation versus the incorporated. And one also incorporated a utility infrastructure like improvement or maintenance fee that kind of mimics that CIF fee that the BGSU study. So that's another primary difference is adding another flat fee that we can dedicate and gather resources for when some sort of improvement or maintenance occurs. That we would need to generate and create a new account for that. But that's kind of another primary difference between the 2. Overall, both proposals do generate roughly the same amount. There's not a huge difference between the 2 in terms of the rate increase for next year. Based on the CPI for utilities from 2024 all the way through 2026, if you do the math, it was 4.7 and 5.1 or 2, and that roughly came out to like a 10.1%. And then if you factor in another 5%, it was roughly around 15.1 to 7% increase from 2024. Just keep in mind, we haven't raised rates since 2024, so that kind of gives you an idea of where the state of affairs is when it comes to inflation. And so both of those plans looked like they took that into account. So those were the kind of the main differences. I tried to include as much information here. I kind of built a model. I did ask Tiffany for the amount of water meters spread out. I believe there is a table. I may have excluded it, but since this was just an example to keep it apples to apples, but this is based off of everything you see here is based off of 2025 annual data. So I have the correct amount of users factored into this math and average users. And then of course I built a model that was a 12,000 gallon per quarter user today. If you were to build them monthly, what would their monthly bill look like? And I kept 2026 rates and versus the 2027 proposal rate. So there has been a lot of math, a lot of spreadsheets. Any questions so far? Any concerns anyone seeing? Go ahead.
You did away with the homestead.
Correct.
What was the difference on the 2024 rate of the homestead versus incorporated or unincorporated? I know that was a discount. I don't know how much it was, if even worth.
Well, I think so. A primary driver of just removing the homestead was validation. Like they have to give
That's already on file. They have to go up.
Yeah, they have to
Through the
go and do
pig.
that. And I think that was just simply, that was just something, an activity that.
No.
Is it worth?
What you're hitting is everybody that's over 65 and over.
Nope, I don't disagree.
That's what the homestead is for. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just wondering what the breakdown was, if it was much of a breakdown.
Was. I have looked at that previously. That's a good
I
question.
think the BTSU study showed that we were the only one that they'd ever had.
Well-
Is that correct?
Correct. So that when I say that kind of a primary driver, like it's just one of those things where it was a discount, and I do actually see programs like that helping. But we seem to be unique, that fact, and that was highlighted specifically. That was a call out in the BGSU study. So the question was, is it from an administrative point of view, is it something worth keeping? I wouldn't go so bold as to say it's not worth keeping, but I just removed it for administrative purposes. I think we had 65 of the water of the 806. We're not, I don't think it was high enough usage necessarily, but if that's something we feel we need to incorporate, that's something that we can look into. I am open to that feedback. There is, but I would contend, I wish there was better ways to give relief to people just in general. Outside of the fixed, outside of rates necessarily, if that makes sense. Rather than baking it into a rate, maybe make a different policy or something. I'm saying that's not as a utility committee member, but as a councilman.
What's the purpose of going monthly?
I'm going to, I wish Brian Davis was here to speak on his behalf, but one benefit to going monthly. It levels, as a customer, it levels your billing. Not gonna be a huge hit for you in a quarter, right?
Wasn't it delinquent customers?
It was,
Well-
the leaks was
The
the other big issue was
Yep.
we have 3 months
It
before we
helped.
notice a leak, and then that creates an issue with the EPA because we have to account for so much of our loss, where it's going. While we're doing monthly readings, we're gonna be able to catch leaks faster with the EPA side of things.
Also, money hits the account sooner, I imagine. Therefore, we can react a lot quicker.
Budgeting purposes. for the end user.
Absolutely. So, there were some good reasons to move.
So is there gonna be an option for like the auto pay? With the monthly, can we incorporate an auto pay for people so they can just establish it?
Tiffany's in the process of looking for a new utility billing software because one we have is old and antiquated. I don't know if the new software that she's looking at has that option, but I would imagine some of the other software probably have that ability to set up for her. I can pass that on to her to see if that's a possibility.
While you want to circle back around to your homestead, I do have the homestead rates. Sorry, I know the rest of you guys can see this, but almost a $2 volumetric rate and then a $4 flat fee rate. I don't have the math because I didn't calculate it. It seemed like the move homestead was where we were going to go. What I will say about that is when we're making this plan, I am also keenly aware of lower users. It's kind of like an effective rate. If you don't use the one rate, you're kind of paying more per 1,000 gallons. But I did try to balance and not go so heavy handed on the flat fees and try to push more for volumetric so that people who are lower users don't get impacted as much as the flat fee. Does that make sense? The higher your flat fee, everybody, it's a uniform distribution across the board. Volumetric, you pay for what you use for. While both plans are still a blend, try to keep that volumetric rate more towards that end and trying to balance all try to get some of that flat fee off of there.
When you come up with the 12,000, is that a median or is that an average?
I tried to keep it, this is what EGSU uses with 12,000. The actual 2025 number I had, I'd have to calculate by quarter, but I was doing this by month. So the average residential incorporated user is roughly 3,900 gallons per month, so a little less than that. Yes, and then the out of corporated residential users are somewhere in the neighborhood of, they use a little less, around 2,400. But the meter count is 690 meters versus 44. Incorporated users are a much higher percentage than the out.
And then a utility improvement fee, was there a structure that it come up to be $10 or $120 a year?
That was on advisement. Brian Davis was one of his initial proposals.
It seems a little high for me, but
That's actually why the fixed fees, so I stole from the fixed fees to help mitigate that.
Like Village of Oakwood Township was there, I think there.
I mean, just looking at it, I'm looking at probably close to about a $60 increase per billing cycle for me.
Oh, yeah, I'd have to look at the exact one.
Because we're always under 300. We're around the 250 area and then that's gonna push it up to 300.
I think somewhere it was, we figured it was like $18.83 a month, so 60 per quarter or whatever, which, or less, a little less than 60 per quarter or whatever, yeah. So,
It's significant.
I mean, I can tell you, and I give credit to these guys like Jason, Derek, John. We were in 5 or 6 meetings, multiple people, probably over 15 hours, multiple spreadsheets, like ate these numbers alive. Worked out, tried to make it as fair as possible. Thing about it is now that we, when we raised the meter rates, it was kind of like, hey, we're doing this for a water plant that we're gonna build someday in the future. Now we have that grant money, that water plant is coming, we're building it. And so like Oz is sitting over there, but we have to build the yellow brick road and we gotta pay for it somehow. And unfortunately, you have to adjust rates. And like I told a couple of people, I mean, we're all paying these. None of us live in a mansion on the hill, like getting free water or, special things. Like we're all in the village eating this together. So, is it, I don't.
Well,
Yeah.
keep in mind also that fee of $10 a month, if that'll be for future improvements as well. It's not just for, so down the road, when in 40 years, when the new water treatment plant is inevitable, after this one gets built, there should be some money there, so you don't have to go through this, future council doesn't have to go through this.
And we kind of talked, it's also one of those things that it'll be new, it'll be novel. We can turn that off, we can turn that off, or we can make these adjustments later on to that fee as well. But to your point, like the average, like based on the average data for a person, for a resident, inside or outside, roughly it comes, or I'm sorry, potentially inside is roughly not quite $6 a month on average. Now, if you're a higher user, obviously it'd be more. Lower user could be a little less. But I did try to target. I didn't want to go too much beyond, that 6%. Like I was trying really hard to keep these bills as low as possible while still trying to recover from freezing the rates. And still trying to get that improvement fee going. So that's just kind of where it was coming from, is trying to be as distributive across the board as possible.
I know in the past, when we did utilities, we didn't have any numbers at all to go by. We guessed at all of them.
Shooting from the.
So an increase isn't shocking to me because we had no figure. We had no idea where we were. So I've got to hand it to these guys. Hands down, they've done a lot of work and it's paid off, but at least now we know what we got invested versus what we had for returns. Before, we had no idea what the investment was versus what we're bringing in on returns. So, yeah, I think it's a good plan myself.
Yeah, I don't think.
Just the fact that we did, before it was just a guessing game,
Yes.
for the most part.
Yeah, the last rate we had was an advisement from the engineers that we had, and that's when we did that last big,
$35.
the big rate, yeah. That was under advisement to do the water treatment plant that we could afford 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's all changed, and I understand that, you know, ultimately, we was looking at a much larger rate increase to cover a new water treatment plant compared to what we have now with the funds that's been made available to us.
I think the numbers still show that we're gonna be less than what like Village of Paulding's paying and other surrounding.
Oh, yeah, we're
So,
still
so
highly
even with these
competitive,
increases,
like-
we're gonna be below
We are
what everybody else
still-
is paying in our area. I
Correct,
mean, that's-
absolutely. Relative to the BGSU study, we are still, I don't even know if our
that's the
position
thing-
would
that-
change.
That's
to be
the thing
honest
to
with you.
keep in mind is, I
Um,
mean, it sounds like a big increase and it is for the residents, but you could, like you mentioned, there hasn't been an increase since 24 and you were way behind before on the.
We were
on
way
the-
Yeah,
behind
so,
before.
so like,
24.
you know, so there's two major, I guess if there's two major flaws trying to sleuth this out, try to figure it out. Right, so I've used this term before, margin, right, like this is what you're bringing in, what you're spending, and then keeping that distance between the two, right, like how ahead am I on my revenue bringing in so that I'm recovering all of my costs. The plan that, the proposal number 2 keeps this at roughly 10-11% for the water and sewer respectively. That's based off of, you know, June's numbers, so these are estimates. I've looked at 2025's numbers, so I don't know if that's razor thin or not, hence the double digit. I get very uncomfortable going below 10, so that does contribute to why this looks a little heavy. And then once again, that inflation number, I am anticipating 5%. Maybe you guys are seeing something different in the news, but I almost wonder if I may be undershooting on that. But 5% felt like a fair number to target as well. So that's the other forecasted number that may, you know, maybe I was too aggressive at it. But those are two, if you were to argue against me, those are two valid arguments too. So,
Absolutely.
but I took, again, just me saying this, I hope I iterate that the weight that I've put onto this is, I have spent a lot of time doing this math and looking at it several different ways. And I felt like this was the most fair, like balanced approach. The other proposal does hit out of towners very hard. Very, very hard. And I think we felt that that might have been a little too unfair
A
to
little
them.
aggressive.
I think we understand they're using our resources, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I
Don't
can't
gouge them.
blame them. Yeah, it almost felt a little too harsh. So this was kind of a more balanced approach while still keeping that distance between out of town and in-town rates. So that proposal 2 is what it is. As far as installation fixed fees, those I took that. Anything that's not water and sewer specifically, so the and the utility improvement. So stormwater, refuse, trash, compost, the tap installation fees that are on there, page 4 highlights that. That's all from Brian. That's Brian. That was his recommendation, and I have no reason to argue against it. He's gonna do that better than I will. So, for the purposes of the changes, almost all of the changes revolve around that, for those first columns of water and sewer rates, and then whether you have a utility improvement fund or not. I think the fund is actually a good idea.
I do too.
So I think it was worth trying to put in there. So what people would see from proposal 2 is their flat fees would come down a little bit. But the volumetric would go up, and then that added $10. Still obviously more, paying more, but I did try to mitigate it as much as I could. Given the circumstances.
It's a little give and take to create another line item that we can use to our advantage.
I do. I think the benefits of this particular change will be that, right? It does generate $10 a month across the current amount of users, and keep in mind, once this Antelope Square goes, that'll be great.
And that can always be adjusted.
Exactly. We'll have more users to spread the burden to, so it'll be nice, but it almost generates a little less than $100,000 put into that improvement fund for the utility. So that will be great to start generating.
Water line replacements that we need to do. That's-
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it will be very helpful.
if there's no more questions, then we just need a motion to accept the proposal, or is that?
I think so the way the timing works out, right, this is 4 months, we need to get these rates in, by the,
September, October, November, technically, I have till October, but I mean, you have 30-day referendum, so
Yeah,
we
if
need
you
to do it by
wanna-
September.
Yep.
Needs by September.
so, I think the ask is to draft the ordinance, put that rate table from proposal 2 into an ordinance.
We need to vote on it.
Utility committee's asking him to do it, he can present it, and then you guys will have your first reading next month.
Sound good?
Just point of clarification, so last couple of years, I know that we have looked at water sewer, there's been like one ordinance that continues to be amended.
Please don't do that. Please, yes.
Okay, let's axe the old one and do a new one.
So,
Please.
just to make sure that I understand, we're going with proposal 2. Is that correct?
That's the recommendation.
That's the recommendation from the committee.
So that is,
They have done their homework.
I just wanna make sure I'm understanding all the fixed fees obviously will be easy enough, the water rate and sewer rate. So that is. Trying to understand $12,000 dollars, so that's.
Well, hold on, you're gonna want.
Is the rate actually?
Go to page 4.
Page 4.
Yeah, page 4. Sorry. You were looking at the example, that's the user case.
Okay, so $6 per 1,000 gallons.
Right.
For an okay, all right.
Yep. They will move to monthly billing, I can put this in a better table, but
Yeah, that's fine.
You got
This
it.
will work fine, yeah.
okay, excellent.
I'll just set that all forward and then. There was talk of inflation. Is that you're factoring inflation into this, but it's not going to be set to automatically increase based on inflation or?
No, actually, you know what, I do think that was a suggestion, I'm a little leery about putting that in now, but we talked about having some verbiage in there that to automatically raise.
Say we,
Basically.
the meeting I was in, you talked about consumer price index or 3%, whichever was,
Something like
whatever was
that.
lower or whatever.
I think, yeah, I was gonna say, I thought the wording we had was like up to 4% based
Up
on
to
CPI
4,
or
yeah, I
whatever.
think was the intent. I will say, just one thing that would be on my docket is I still wanna come back to that because with the Antwerp Square project going on, and some other additional concerns, as a town, we still need to deal with super users. Abnormally high users. I just wanna, I will likely revisit it, but yes, we did talk about tying it to CPI no higher than, 3-4%.
Yeah, I think that.
No, so it's-
When I was in the one meeting, I know they discussed it.
Yeah, cause I talked to, it was a lot of standard stuff, it's like 3% year over year.
Yeah, moving forward, rates established on prior year CPI not to exceed 4% is what I wrote somewhere in our
Yeah,
meetings of.
yep.
So this get revisited every year for,
Rather than, it was on a 3-year type.
5 years, wasn't it? Or
5 year, I know it wasn't every year we redid it.
Oh, to be fair, sorry, the other, this is, I don't think I wanna speak for the utility committee, but as its chair, I have to be concerned only because I don't feel we have a good handle on the super users much, and as this Antwerp as talk of industrial, I just wanna make sure we have those tiers properly captured too, because I'm worried about not necessarily the super users, but like the difference between a resident, normal, these small businesses we have today. There's gonna be something in here, right? There's that travel plaza idea, hotel idea. These large distribution centers, these will be larger users, but they may not be industrial users yet either, right? I think there's work to do. So if we want to put an automatic year over year or something like that, I'm totally fine with that verbiage, but I do think eventually I'm gonna pull these guys together and we're gonna have a conversation. Sorry that I did.
So how do you want him to draft the ordinance? So do you want the automatic inflation, so if we don't have anything done by the end of
I
27,
think so. I think if we put something like if there's no plan put
no
forward.
change, it automatically just goes up. I mean, that's how the old ordinance
Correct,
was, I think, so.
exactly. So,
Just so, I mean, that way you are at least keeping up with inflation. And then
Right.
if things change and you wanna redo the ordinance, you can
Absolutely.
redo it later down the road, but I mean,
Yep.
that's the problem we've had the last couple of years. We haven't kept up with inflation and our margin is, I
well,
mean,
yeah,
actually, we were in the red if you take into account all the engineering and stuff that we've been
well,
doing.
in
So-
June, we were in the red on
Yeah.
the sewer, so.
So, I mean, I think you need to have some kind of inflation in there just to cover the cost of, when our cost of materials go up to fix things.
Yeah.
It's,
And I
it's an
do,
automatic factor that has to be factored in.
and I do want to make sure, like I said, I've talked about this before, one of the arguments, right, is where does that margin need to live for us to be comfortable? I do think we're just gonna have to reevaluate that too, once we get some more data.
And that would just be on the water rate and sewer rate.
Correct.
Nothing else would change at that point.
Yeah, the
unless
rest-
We changed it.
You know,
Fixed fees wouldn't change, it would just be
Right.
the actual.
Rates, usage rates.
Yeah, because compost, trash, refuse, stormwater is treated a little different, but the other ones I assume are contract based, right? I mean. Whatever we do, trash.
Trash is based on, we don't actually make any money on that. I think
Correct.
there's a little bit of a margin in the account from years before and
Nope,
what we get billed is what passes on to the end user.
exactly. So the rest we can control, the water and sewer. So that's kind of why I kept it isolated like that.
So I will do an ordinance, in the rates in this proposal to the table on page 4. Will include, if no change made by council by the end of each calendar year, then just an automatic increase to the water and sewer rates based on CPI index.
And no higher than,
No more than 4.
Yeah, capped at 4%.
It'd be the lesser of the two. So I mean,
Correct.
basically, if CPI is 5, it's gonna go up 4. If
Yes.
CPI is 2, it's gonna go up 2%.
Correct. I think that's fair.
Also.
Thanks for your work.
Paragon, a special rate. Forward.
My vote is no, I don't want any no contracts.
That's what special contracts for any.
No,
any
I agree. 100%.
That one, that expires.
That expires at the end of this
We
year.
don't really need to-
We don't have-
Nope.
that's what
Just
kind of
go up.
started this whole thing.
Yes. But once again, I still think there's work to do. I think there's things, but that will be gradual over time.
I just want to commend you on the work that you put into this, John. You've been proven outstanding.
I have a giant Excel worksheet / worksheets if you ever want to get real nerdy.
Get a pizza. All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate that. No other committee reports, right? I think that's it for that. So off to the fiscal officer report.
All right, first thing I've got is the third reading of ordinance 2026-12. It's an ordinance amending section 2 of ordinance 2017-08 and ordinance allowing inspections of golf carts and other underspeed vehicles by the police department of the village of Antwerp, Ohio to increase the inspection fee for non-residents of the village.
I mean, we approve.
Second.
Is that Jason?
Yeah.
Motion on the floor to adopt ordinance 2026-12. Dean Reister.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
Derek Maggio. Yes. Bill Boylan.
Yes.
John Ganger.
Yes.
And John DeBoer.
Yes.
Next item that I have is third reading of ordinance 2026-14. This is an ordinance to continue retaining the services of Brandon Grigsby with the law firm of Hopkins Schroeder Bonshausen LLC, Ottawa, Ohio, as solicitor for the village of Antwerp, Paulding County, Ohio.
Brandon, you want to stay on?
I do. I think we should have voted on this before we talked about it.
How do we approve?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor to adopt ordinance 2026-14. Dean Reister.
Yes.
John DeBoer.
Yes.
Derek DeMaggio.
Yes.
Bill Boylan.
Yes.
John Ganger.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
Next item is emergency reading of ordinance 2026-17. This is an ordinance accepting a grant of $58,000 from the 136th Ohio General Assembly's annual budget for reconstruction of the Park Pavilion and declaring the same an emergency. Need a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll make it.
Second.
Motion on the floor to suspend the rules of three readings regarding ordinance 2026-17. Jason Franks,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Derek Maggio,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
John Ganger,
Yes.
John DeVore.
Yeah.
And motion to adopt ordinance 2026-17.
I'll make it. Motion.
A second.
Motion on the floor to adopt ordinance 2026-17. John DeVore,
Yes.
John Ganger,
Yes.
Derek DeMaggio,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Dean Reister.
Yes.
Next item is the emergency reading of 2026-18. This is an ordinance regulating unreasonable noise and public nuisance within the village via Ohio Revised Code Section 715.49 set and 3767, providing for extra territorial enforcement penalties and nuisance abatement and declaring the same an emergency.
Do we suspend the rules of three readings?
Second.
Jason?
Yeah.
Motion on the floor to suspend the rules of three readings in regards to ordinance 2026-18. Dean Reister,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Eric DeMaggio,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
John Ganger,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
and a motion to adopt.
I'll make it. Second.
Motion on the floor to adopt ordinance 2026-18.
Any discussion on this? Will we adopt it?
And if you like,
Well, the only thing I've seen in the ordinance was section 3, where they have a time frame on this from 10 PM to 7 AM. I know for a fact there's been issues long before 10 PM with noise. I think that putting a pigeonhole, you can do pretty much what you want during the daylight, and after dark, you gotta behave, it's a little much. I know people live in the neighborhood, and I live basically 3 blocks from where this is happening, and I can hear it at my house, and it's really not very pleasant the way that it's being performed. It's basically a dirt track for AMX, four-wheelers, whatever. I think we need to have something a little more substantial during daylight hours as well. Rather than just after dark.
Maybe.
So my interpretation of this section, once again, I want to make sure Brandon's on the same page, so correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like if it exceeds the reasonable decimal threshold, is plainly audible across residential boundaries or plainly audible at distance of 50 feet from the source between the hours of 10 and 7. Sounds like there's 3 different conditions that trigger this, right? The way I'm reading it right now, so if it's above a decimal level threshold.
My reading of it would be any 3 of those during that hour. Yeah, like. if
During
it
those
meets
hours,
those
okay,
candles during
okay,
those
I just wanted to make sure if it includes the 10 PM, I just wanted to make sure.
do we need to quantify the reasonable desk threshold? Is it just at 50 no matter what?
Permits ORC.
I think it would be one decimal level one. This was just modeled on an example one. Want to insert, but reasonable. It's almost like a big chunk.
I mean, I'm not sure what that number would be.
Or how are they? How are they gonna
I
know?
know, you gotta have a decibel reader to have, if you have it in there to be able to enforce it. I mean, I know.
But
like
we've got a
when we-
decibel level in there now, so. Or don't, no, we don't, never mind. Never mind.
Say if you don't have a decibel reader though, how are you gonna prove that they were, it's like saying somebody's speeding without a radar gun.
So like, we're gonna be making a purchase.
Well, I'm just
Well.
making the point out there that, you have a decibel notated in the ordinance. So this is based on the Ohio Revised Code. How do they specify
What
as
the decibel
exceeds
is.
reasonable?
I think the code section just says that you can regulate it. I don't even think it might not even have that specific. I can bring it up. real quick. municipal corporation will prevent riot, gambling, noise, and disturbance, and indecent or disorderly conduct or assemblages, preserve the peace and good order, and protect the property of the municipal corporation.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's 7:30 PM. There's a,
Turn it on,
something that
there's nothing nobody can do
I
about
can
it.
hear, and I can't hear my own TV or have conversations in my house. How do you enforce this to that?
We need a decibel level of some sort and a way to monitor.
The way section 3 sounds, it sounds like that decibel threshold, even if you set it there, only applies between 7 PM and 7 AM.
Right.
I think that's it.
10 PM, that's what. the-
10
yeah.
PM.
10 PM.
That have to be 7 AM.
I guess I would say too, I mean, if the decibel is not something that council thinks is ascertainable, just leave it at plain and audible across property boundary. Whatever, right? I'm trying to find the.
Yeah, cause I
Or
think,
plainly audible at a distance of 50 feet from the source.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think the last two kind of, somebody called. I could hear it, or I could experience it as an officer with my,
The police
I
officer would be
think-
out there.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think really, it's fine. All we need to do is scratch at 10 PM to 7 AM. So at any time this happens, it can be. And it's gonna be on the discretion of the officer and neighbors' complaints. But if you say that, at 8:45, you can go out and do whatever you want, and that's, well, if you're ahead of the 10 o'clock, by God, you're having fun, good for you. And your neighbor came here, it's TV, that's not solving the issues. You know, it's fine if it's your kid, but if my kid's doing it to you, you ain't gonna like it, that's just the way it is.
You're right.
I pay taxes just like the next guy, we all live this little community together.
Yeah, I thought 10 PM was a little late.
I used to be a third night shifter, so I'm used to trying to sleep there.
I don't think that time period just needs to be scratched. Hours 10.
So could we just say, at a distance of 50 feet from the source and then just scratch
Yeah.
between the hours of
Put
10
a
and
period
7?
there and in the sentence.
Yes, I think from a technical standpoint, but I mean, if it's not a rush, if no one's worried about enforcing this during the next month, I'd rather see it back, it passes emergency next month, just since it is materially different than how it was presented. If we were doing 3 readings, I think that's fine. When it's the emergency, I would prefer to see. That makes sense.
Yeah. As an emergency, if we're gonna change it, then we need to rewrite it, and bring
Say,
it back next
or the
month.
option is to pass it the way it is written and then bring back another emergency ordinance to scratch, is that correct?
Right,
We
I
could.
think that would be.
That's. Okay.
Yeah. Don't have an emergency for an emergency to have an emergency, because then it'll be three emergencies. So I think you're correct. If we,
So
I mean,
just table it
if
for.
the fact that we brought it up, we've all talked about it, we know we're moving forward with it, I would just say, let Brandon bring it back to the next meeting and then we do it then, if that's agreeable with everybody.
So just one more thing, cause I'm just trying to walk this through, right? Removing the time. So it's 3 PM, somebody calls. Section 7 says the first violation of this ordinance shall constitute a minor misdemeanor. Shall go to a fine. Because we remove. Like, I understand that, in that time frame. If we bar that, is there consideration for the first violation? Adding like a step
Like
before
a
that. that's
warning,
not-
you're saying?
Yes, and the reason, just thought experiment, right? As we walk this through and now people can call on children playing in the yard or something,
Well,
We
you're
changed
you're
that.
running a chainsaw to cut down a tree that fell during a
Yes.
storm.
That
And you get fined,
technically
you get fined $150?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why that
it-
time
Okay,
slot's gotta be in there to some
That's-
extent.
Yeah, because I mean, there's gonna be
Now-
work done during the day that you're.
Now, we know it's at discretion, there's obviously leeway, right? I'm just trying to walk this down that path of that thought experiment.
I don't like the idea of having an officer making a judgment call.
Yes, that's where I'm kind of going with it. I don't want somebody coming in here, we'll pick on really young guys coming right into the force and they go, oh, shall constitute them, shall is a must. I
Yeah.
must give them a minor misdemeanor for being loud, and
Or it can
you're
say,
hitting somebody with a
change that
minor
to
misdemeanor.
or what would
That's
be the
right.
legal term of,
Well, maybe
Don't necessarily have
a
to.
time thing, maybe just adjusting it from 10, because like I said, if people are in town working during the day and they're creating a noise during the day. We had trees down this week.
Yeah.
The guys are in here cutting up the trees that were down. Are they gonna get fined by the village because they're in here running a chainsaw that can be heard from more than 50 feet away? That's where I think you almost
Yeah,
have
you're
to have, you
doing
almost have to
stuff
have
at your
during.
house, you're working on
you're
something in your
working on-
garage.
yeah,
during the day.
I hate to say that, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you got an ordinance in place that doesn't have,
That's probably why somewhere, and it opens the door to like whatever, but that's probably why the decibel thing is in there, because I assume a chainsaw in your backyard cutting up a log is not as loud as like certain motorbikes or certain whatever things. And I guess it could be,
but it's
but
probably still gonna be over 50 feet though.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna
that's
hear a
true.
chainsaw from 50 feet
Yeah.
away.
but even just, loud exhaust on cars, I have that 5:30 in the morning, I got people that blast by my house that with a loud car. You know? And so I suppose if there was an officer sitting down the man in town, they could pull him over and.
Yeah, now my hope would be an officer rate call, like, guy's running a chainsaw, relax. I'm hoping that.
I guess the nuisance part probably plays into it. Though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're working on your house.
Yeah,
or
you're doing something.
You're not a nuisance. You're not.
Yeah.
You're putting a roof on your house with a nail
So-
gun, this is gonna.
So
whether it's loud by some people,
best
that-
case scenario is you waste a police officer's time because maybe a neighbor doesn't like this neighbor and they're calling it, or they think it's a nuisance and it's really not a nuisance.
You could add in there too, a written warrant, first offense, that's a written warrant.
I would feel much
And then
comfortable.
from there on, it
To be
would
honest with
proceed on into the legal.
Yeah.
cases. And these minor misdemeanors, these guys, it's not an automatic, he can go to court and judge, which would be the mayor at that time.
Yeah.
Can
You
adjust
make the
fee to
judgment
whatever
call.
they want it to be.
you. Yeah.
Or dismiss it or
It
whatever.
just-
yeah.
He gets to make the judgment call at that point, then I guess.
Yeah,
So
that's all.
Thanks.
Yeah. Another consideration.
Get all that.
All right, so what all did, what, I get,
What we're trying to
You
get.
sure you wanna go back?
Well, I mean, I guess I'll say, I completely understand everything you guys are saying. This is one of those areas where,
It's a great, yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have to take into it, you have to think of the worst possible person that you can imagine trying to enforce this one. So both employing the police and the officer acting in the worst possible way they can. And is that how you want it to be enforced? Because not every time, but it's gonna happen, and someone's gonna come here and complain about it because they won't.
Yeah, I want to
And-
stop weaponization.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be weaponized necessarily, and I know that's a small percentage, or I hope it is. I don't think I see that in Amherst that much, but I imagine it would be. That's just really the concerns me. That's a good point. I didn't think about, everybody working in the worst possible way, so,
And giving them legal authority to do it.
yeah.
Alright, so I
what
think having a-
revisions need to be made, I guess, and then when somebody can make a motion to table with revisions next month.
I'm moving table with revisions on this
What revisions?
2026. Say on section
Something like
3, you put the period after from its source. Move between the hours of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then in section 7, first offense to be a written warning, whether there's proof, verbal warning, in writing, and he's already been warned, and it's on file.
And then the second one would, second offense would be a minor misdemeanor.
Yeah, with the. Yep.
So you're making a motion to that effect then, Bill, correct?
Yes,
Or does that need a motion to, just to have it, I mean, we have to make
I
a
would
motion to
say-
table it, correct?
take out the word shall and put could constitute a minor misdemeanor.
Is that a legal term?
I think that needs to remain shall.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, I mean, you still have, I mean,
Shall be a.
the speed
written-
limit is still, an officer shall pull you over if you're going 56 and 55. But they still have.
Option
Legal authority to not be a.
All right, so Bill's made a motion to table only ordinance 2026-18 with revisions by Brandon. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Push on the floor to table ordinance 2026-18 with revisions mentioned by Bill Boylan. Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Dean Reister.
Yes.
Derek Maggio,
Yes.
John Ganger,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
and John DeBoer.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, next thing we have is the first reading of ordinance 2026-19. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the fiscal officer to enter into a contract with Carryall Township for providing fire protection services for a 5-year period commencing in calendar year 2027. Next is first reading of ordinance 2026-20. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor and fiscal officer to enter into a contract with Carryall Township for providing emergency medical services in calendar years 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, and 2031. Next is first reading of ordinance 2026-21. Ordinance authorizing the mayor and the fiscal officer to enter into a contract with Harrison Township for providing fire protection services in calendar years 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, and 2031. And the last is first reading of ordinance 2026-22, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the fiscal officer to enter into a contract with Harrison Township for providing emergency medical service in calendar years 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, and 2031. All I have.
Old business. Is any? No old business?
You, John, you gotta bring that back up for the water.
Well, we already, yeah, we already.
We already did all that.
I was trying to keep it to the report,
Yeah.
the category it was in.
New business?
We want to talk about the Antwerp Autumn kickoff for ACDC and whether or not we want them to allow what they can with a recommendation of whether or not they would like to have the fire pits. We'd have to figure out how we can do that with the insurance and legalities or if they get kiboshed on the fire pits. They wanted to do the alcohol permit also.
Yeah, so the one thing I will say is, they have their own insurance. I think the big problem, one of the things we ran into with the fire was it was in the park, like when we talked about this before or whatever, so. And I know for the alcohol, if we want to approve it, then he has to go through and get the permit and get it all approved for out there, so then that takes the liability on us and puts it on the ACDC.
Right.
So just throwing those things out there, they are always on their stuff, like for Antwerp Days, he's always got every box checked, dots the i's, crosses the t's, so. I think they'll take care of the necessary things, to get where we allow them to go, so.
I'm
with
kind of,
that,
I'm thinking with the fires, we maybe want to talk to Chief Addis about it. And make sure he's on board with it and possibly have standby fire truck. If necessary. As a solution.
Yeah, my only recommendations would be talk to the fire chief, make sure he's okay with that and that insurance.
So could you make a motion to allow for this with the exception of the fire until it's been approved by the fire chief? I mean, if that.
I know the Ohio Revised Code says that we have to have approval by the fire marshal for public fires on public property.
Correct.
So,
Ran into that on the previous.
I guess,
Fire, like the fire marshal.
True, but he may be considered the marshal for our area. I don't know
Might
how
give
that
you
works.
valuable feedback, at least for our initial first pass.
Obviously, they just want to go.
Yeah,
And I think ultimately, it's Brandon, but I think if we just say that, we're cool with them moving forward using that area based on the fact that they, confine with the village things, and we can have them figure out about the fire pits, cause obviously he was pretty quick to go, hey, we don't need
Yeah,
fire pits, if that's, if
yeah.
that's a holdup, we'll just.
Yeah, if it's
So-
a big deal, then he's definitely willing to forego the fires.
And around here, September 26th, it could be 98 degrees or it could be 36 and snowing. So, who knows what it'll be like, I guess, but
I don't think there needs to be anything formal. I mean, like, if anyone else were to use that ground, they'd just go to Brian. Right? So, you guys want to motion and say say that stuff. put it
Well, I
out
know
there.
he just wants approval, he wants to know, so I don't know if that's something that we have to talk with Brian about and have him. I mean, if it'd be on the application, he's gonna have to fill out an application for the usage of the ground.
Like Brian would have to know what council's opinion is of it. If you guys
Right,
made a,
that-
it
that's
could be a
kinda-
standard vote without really a motion to approve it. It could just say, you know,
I guess if nobody's opposed.
yeah, if there's nobody opposed to it.
Yeah, because he'll pass his deadline if we try to meet again.
Correct.
I mean,
Right.
My big stickler on all these public events is making sure they're insured, safe, and following the rules of the state and the
Yep.
village. So as long as we're in those categories, for me, I'm a go.
I'm good.
So Brian would have the,
I can reach out to Dustin and tell him that he can get the ball rolling on trying to figure out all things and then follow up with Brian and make sure that he's got all the boxes checked that need to be checked and if there's something that arises that we need to, like he needs counsel or whatever, then I'll.
special
We
meeting.
can
Yeah,
have a
we'll
special
figure it
meeting if
out,
we have
but-
to, or we still got next
Well,
month.
technically, yeah, we could do next one.
Yeah, he could apply for the.
He can
yeah, like
apply,
the
he
F2
knows he
license.
can apply to get his license, that's the time frame that he needs is for his, I think he said F1 or whatever.
F1, F2, or whatever the license, I don't know what it is.
I know ACDC does a fine job with all their events, they don't usually forego the rules, they're pretty tight with what they do.
Okay, any other new business? Okay, mayor's report, I did want to thank the Rotary for Antwerp Day in the Park, it was a great event, parade, had like 35 entries, it's pretty big, I got to see pictures of it, obviously, we were all in the front, so we didn't really see how big it was and all the things, but looking at the pictures, it was very cool, thank Tanya Walker for sending us an email and getting everybody on board to get involved, and I appreciate you guys walking with me. I had a good time. I think everybody else did too, so. And yeah, I think that's all I got as far as that. For money total to the city is 828. Total to the state, 655. Total to Pauling County is 27, for a total of $1,510. $828, 655 and 27.
Should be 18.
What they? Oh, the fines are not, where is that? Oh, that's
Your
citizens.
2515, your total.
Okay. 2515 is the total. Sorry, guys. I highlighted the wrong number, that's my bad. All right, with that. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make it.
Okay. Motion on floor to adjourn, all signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pretty smooth sailing, huh?
Something on that one.
Those guys shut that off.
How you do? Red button?
Nail biter.
I think the red, I was like, oh my goodness.
No, start talking people's bills and want to make sure you got it right.
Oh, dude, you have no idea.
I don't know.